This challenge reminds me of the chorus from that one Fort Minor song of which I just can't seem to remember the name. But what is Kaizo Ironmon anyway? Kaizo Ironmon is well known for its extreme difficulty. Kaizo meaning modification or reconfiguration. It's a philosophy of game design that places a high level of stringency on the player's intended actions and movements through a game. Many people may recognize the term Kaizo from Mario Maker levels. Fans of Ryukar and YouTubers of the like will know that these levels are quite extreme, often requiring deep knowledge of the game's mechanics as well as ability to perform tremendously quick and precise button inputs to pull off tricks. Pokemon Kaizo Ironmon challenges are a different beast built of the same philosophy. Taking Pokemon Leafgreen for example, a player begins in Professor Oak's lab selecting one of our favorite 3 starters and has a rival battle where both Pokemon are level 5. Then the player progresses through the world, defeating trainers, catching Pokemon, besting gyms, navigating through dungeons such as Team Rocket's hideout and Victory Road. At the end of the game, there's a gauntlet called the Elite Four where one takes their best team to face a fierce series of battles and ultimately face the champion to become the very best like no one ever was. Kaizo Ironmon's rule set makes this standard gameplay into a Herculean task that's nearly impossible to complete. Here are some of the basic rules. All Pokemon and Pokemon moves, abilities, and evolutions are randomized. This includes trainer Pokemon and your starter Pokemon. The starter Pokemon must be lower than 600 BST, BST standing for base stat total. It's a numerical indicator of a Pokemon's inherent strength. Your team can only be a maximum of 3 Pokemon, one being the main Pokemon and the other 2 being HM companions. Only the main Pokemon can fight, even in double battles. You can't use moves that heal the user, that cause conditions with 100% accuracy, and you also cannot use HMs in battle. No gaining XP from defeating Pokemon in wild battles. You must run unless you're trapped. Items that restore health or PP or remove non-volatile statuses such as poison and paralysis may not be used outside of battle. Field healing is banned in dungeons. For example, that little bed you can sleep in the SSN, nah, can't use that. You must have a set battle style, and if that's not enough for you, trainer Pokemon's level are going to be 50% higher than they should be. And if your main Pokemon ever faints in battle, your run is over. And it all starts in Professor Oak's lab where most runs die. Chill and Play and Quick GG are my 2 favorite Kaizo Ironmon streamers. They spend hours looking for a runner, a Pokemon that can take them all the way. Most of the time the run dies in the lab, but sometimes they succeed in leaving just to have the run end before defeating Brock in the first gym. So how does one reliably make it out of the lab, thereby starting this insane challenge? Well, first of all, there are 361 available Pokemon in Leafgreen Kaizo Ironmon challenges. Charted out graphically from lowest BST to highest BST, we have Caterpie all the way at the bottom, down there around 180 base stat total, increasing all the way to Arcanine, who's our max at 550 BST. While there are 361 Pokemon available, many of them share the same BST or fall quite close to one another. You can see here the range is 375, so there are a lot of duplicates. Graphing the same information in a different way, we can see a distribution of Pokemon BST on this histogram with a bin size of 20 units. Taking a representative from most groups, I collected data on how often a Pokemon within one of these BST groups will successfully leave the lab. I did skip some of these groups: Smeargle, Abra, Delcatty, Raticate, Clefable, Porygon 2, and Porygon Z. Maybe you'll make it into another video. I ran 50 battles with each of the remaining group's representative and recorded information from every individual battle. What I recorded was HP, attack, defense, special attack, special defense, speed, stat total at level 5, the Pokemon's nature, their ability, all 4 moves that they had, as well as whether they won or whether they lost. Here is a chart of each group's average stats by the end of 50 battles. Caterpie's HP was around 19 or 18 on average, whereas Arcanine was above 25. This HP stat was much higher than the attack and defense and all the other stats that I recorded. Most of the other ones fell around this line. Here we can see the attack, the defense, the average special attack, the average special defense, and the average speed, all falling within very similar margins of one another. Since the base stat total was randomized, this is why everything is pretty even, and everything increases as BST increases. Adding these numbers up, we can see that the average stat total at level 5 increases very steadily from Group 1's representative Caterpie around 60 stat points to Group 19, which is just Arcanine, whose value is around 95 stat points. For those those 50 battles, each group representative battled against the most logical choice, a Pokemon whose BST is 405, the median base stat total for the available Pokemon. There were a few options, but I chose to battle Wartortle because it also happens to be my favorite Pokemon from this generation. Here's a layout of the number of wins. Starting with Caterpie and Igglybuff, they got out of the lab strictly based on luck or just a really crappy Wartortle that wasted a lot of its time. Zigzagoon, Jigglypuff, and Snubbull made it out of the lab more often, but still, these wins didn't feel like I earned them. Same goes for Teddiursa, but by the time I made it to Elekid, these wins started to feel more reliable. They started to feel like it was something that we earned. Getting out to Volbeat, I was very impressed. Out of everyone, they made it out of the lab much more consistently. Wigglytuff had a rough go about things, but everything rebounded when we went on to Gramble. Ursaring and Arcanine made it out of the lab most often, and these wins really felt good. I left the lab with a bunch of HP, and it really felt like we could get something going. Still, none of these runners made it out of the lab more than half the time. That just goes to show how tough this challenge really is. While base stat total contributed greatly to the outcome of a battle, the actual stats themselves didn't seem to matter very much. Here in the orange, you can see the average stat total when we take a loss, versus here in the purple when we take a win. The difference between our base stats at level 5 when we lose versus when we win, it's not that different. So there's gotta be something else that is responsible for a Pokemon leaving the lab more often than not. The biggest relationship, what's really needed to make it out of the lab is compatibility between your individual stats and the moves that the Pokemon knows, in addition to the type of moves that your Pokemon resists. For example, if your highest stat is attack and you've got some strong physical moves, then when you hit, you're likely to hit hard and do more damage, therefore increasing the likelihood of your victory getting out of the lab. If you've got some stall moves accompanied with high defense and high special defense, then that's another way that you can attain victory, at least getting out of the lab. Outside of that, wins really depended on Wartortle, whether it wasted turns doing something useless or just didn't have the moves to beat my Pokemon. That's the only reason Caterpie and Igglybuff ever made it out of the lab. This is the reason that players get excited to see Snorlax, Lapras, and Aerodactyl and other Pokemon above 500 BST, because if these Pokemon make it out of the lab with the right moves and the right stats to accompany those moves, they're gonna level up and become true monsters. With a versatile and powerful moveset to complement the stats, one of these pocket monsters can really become a runner and has a chance to experience that blissful 5% pleasure past that 50% pain.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present your latest Ironmon champion, X Water!
You can do it, Moist.
Let's go!
Subscriptions stop ads.
Yes!
The more you know.
Yes! 9 brutal months, maybe a year, I don't even know. Oh my God!
If you enjoyed watching this video, please consider leaving a like and dropping a sub. It helps me out tremendously and also lets me know that you'd like to watch more videos like this in the future. Thank you.